Hey, good morning, Wayfinders. Pleasure to be with you today. Have an excellent guest joining us. We have Jacquie Balogh. She does transcendence hypnosis to help first responders and people dealing with PTSD. We're going to have her speak a little bit about her story and how she's dealt with PTSD and what she's doing to help those suffering with PTSD. So really hope you guys get some value out of this and can use and leverage Jacquie when the time comes. Super excited. So with no further ado, I'm going to bring Jacquie into the picture, let her tell you her story and how she can be of service. Miss Jacquie.
Hi.
Thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
Thank
you for inviting me onto the show today. It's awesome.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a retired nurse. I retired very early in my career. I was a frontline nurse for about 15 years, and finally retired after working in Alzheimer's and dementia care. What ended up happening for me was I got tired of all of the hoopla. I got tired of not being supported in the ways that I needed to be supported. I got tired of having to explain sick time, stress release, leaving work early. I got tired of all of that. And eventually I ended up leaving my career behind. So then what happened then was I kind of was sitting in limbo and just, I wanted to help people, but I didn't know how. And I wanted to help people like me who are kind of that front line, but don't have the supports in place. So I eventually fell into the field of coaching, and I became a life and wellness coach, and it wasn't enough. It just wasn't enough. And then hypnosis came along, and I trained to become a hypnotist. And just recently, I've certified to become an advanced hypnotherapist. And one of my passions is trauma. So I work with people who suffer those really deep, really hard traumas. And I'm not talking about anything from a bee sting to near-death experience, because trauma for all of us is different. And what ended up happening with me was, as I was working through my training and becoming certified, I ended up having my own traumas come up, and my own PTSD kind of kicked in. And, as we start to expand in our lives, sometimes those things come up and it stalls us and it stops us because of the fear of moving through it. Who will I be without this identity? And so I worked through it. I did the hard work. I worked with a mentor of mine with hypnosis, and I worked through it. And in that, I was able to let go of the identity and the habit of living in PTSD. And one of the things that I did first, one of the very first things that I did, and one of the very first things that I would like all of you listening today to do, is to let go of the identity, let go of the ownership of the word PTSD, let go of anxiety, let go of depression. You didn't purchase it, you didn't order it, and you didn't deserve it. And when we own something, it becomes a part of who we are, and we start to live in that habit and live in that identity. And what I had to do very firstly was let go of the words my and mine. I presently struggle with the symptoms of, but it's not mine. I didn't order it. I don't own it. So if I can impart one piece of information right off the bat today that any of you can actually latch onto, it's let go of the identity that you are PTSD, that you are anxiety, that you are depression, that you are struggling with this. You have the symptoms of it, but you didn't order it, and you certainly don't deserve it.
That is, I've never thought about it that way. And when I sit and think about the conversations that I've had, that language comes up so very frequently.
Always.
And, just in my own experience, I know that our own self-talk really hammers in our beliefs. And so what you're saying, what I'm hearing is, by us emphasizing or by saying my PTSD, or my anxiety
Yeah.
is really sinking the belief that it is a part of me.
Mm-hmm.
And as opposed to, just acknowledging that you have the symptoms of. One thing that you mentioned, I kind of just want to backtrack because it's part of my own awareness, but I think part of other people's awareness too is I've since learned that it's not necessarily a triggered event that leads to PTSD, but it can be a sequence of events.
Yes.
And we maybe don't necessarily recognize, and I'm putting myself in there because I potentially could be that person, but I'm saying people who are suffering the symptoms of PTSD don't recognize it until later on. Is there, just from your experience, is there anything that, kind of could have shone a light on the precursors to PTSD that people could be aware of?
Okay, so let me backtrack just a bit. So here's my take on trauma. So as we live through our life, and if you believe in past lives, which I do, I won't get into that. I'll just stick with this lifetime. As we live through our lives and we go through our lives, from the very second we're born until the very second we die, we can experience traumas. What ends up happening is we have a trauma event. So take a 2-year-old child who has a dog jump on them, okay? We have that traumatic event, and it sets an anchor in that event. And the child carries on living and all of those things. But then a certain set of events happens, and the same emotional reaction comes up from that event. So there's like this energetic cord that then attaches to the next experience. So trauma over time builds and builds and builds and builds. So what we think sometimes might be the traumatic trigger, the triggering event, is actually kind of the volcano that blew off the top after all of the other things underneath of it have finally built up enough that we're reacting in a much more stronger way, or a much more impactful way that's harming to us or harming to others, obviously. So trauma is something that we experience through our whole life. And like I said, it can be something as simple as the sting of a bee, or it can be something as horrible as a near-death experience, and all those things in between. And because we are uniquely human, your trauma, Donnie, would be completely different from my traumas, because of who we are and the makeup that we have and how we're raised. But what ends up happening with trauma is we end up living in the habit of it. So every time a certain set of events happens, those triggering events are kind of reactivated, and all of our emotional responses and our physical responses come back in. And every time it happens, it gets stronger and stronger and stronger. That's how trauma kind of builds throughout our lives. So for people who are first responders, so in my case, nursing, I always was a healer as I was growing up. I was always that person that would run and help somebody who fell off their bike, or I would be the one who was doing first aid or learning things. But every time something happened that caused me a trauma, I would go through life and I would continue, and then something would come up and it would be just a reactionary response. So as I got into nursing and some things would happen, a sequence of events would take place, and it would cause me to react even, more strongly each time. So eventually I had to leave that kind of trauma behind. So what ended up happening with me was, after I left nursing and after I was kind of sitting in limbo trying to figure out what I was going to do with the rest of my life, I suddenly developed a seizure disorder. And that seizure disorder was a pattern interrupt for me to stop and realize this is your time to deal with what's going on with the rest of your life. And so for me, that was what it was. The precursor is always that thing that puts itself in our way. So it's that physical ailment, it's that mental illness, it's that voice in our head that keeps pointing us in directions that, like there's a big sign illuminated and we can't see it, sort of thing. Those are the precursors. Those are the things that we don't pay attention to until we absolutely have to, until it's a wall right in front of us.
Thank you for painting that very clear picture. And, you know, it had me sitting here thinking, like, looking at my life, you know, like the last 40 years, I'm like, wow, what triggered or how did I respond to certain things? So thank you for painting that. I think that really kind of clears it up and will help people understand like what they could be looking for or what's going on, just be a little bit more aware. And I think that certainly helps. It's moved you into a space of hypnosis, and you have taken hypnosis and you are working with people in this space to set them free. I'm going to say set them free, to set them free of the label, set them free of the personal and physical limitations. And explain how hypnosis is doing that, or give us a little background on that.
So most people don't really know what hypnosis is per se. Most people would say that they know about hypnosis from a stage show where people get up on stage and they do funny things. You know, it's great. It's entertaining. What I work with is called clinical hypnotherapy, so clinical hypnosis. And hypnosis is all about choice. It's not my choice to put you into hypnosis. It's your choice to go into hypnosis on your own. Nobody actually hypnotizes anybody else. You choose to go into hypnosis. Why would you do that? We have two levels of mind. So we have the conscious mind, which lives in the everyday, and it has two purposes. One, it is our fiercest protector. So it keeps us safe by living in patterns and living in belief systems that keep us safe and keep us from, deviating and trying new things. On the other hand, it's our worst critic in the fact that our ego lives in our conscious mind, and our ego is always telling us, you're not good enough to do this, you're not good enough to do that, we need to be sad about this, we need to be happy about this. The ego kind of is our worst critic. What I work with is the deeper part of the mind called the subconscious or the superconscious mind. And the superconscious mind connects to everything that is. So I always tell my clients, if you have a problem, you are your best solution. We always go looking for something else. We always go looking for that pill. We always go looking for that therapy. We always go looking for whatever it is that's going to make us feel better without actually stopping to realize that every answer that we need is stored within ourselves. So I always tell people, when you connect to your higher mind, you're connecting to the most intelligent, the best part of yourself, the part of you that doesn't live in emotion and that doesn't care about what the ego is saying. It is the best part of us. So I connect people to their higher mind, and then they make the choice to do what it is that they want to do. And when I have clients come in, a lot of psychologists and psychiatrists and even other hypnotherapists, they do this detailed intake. How many medications do you take, and how many times a day do you feel suicidal, and all these other things. Basically, I ask people, what do you want instead? You know how you feel right now. You know what you don't want in your life. You know how you don't want to feel. What do you want instead? How do you want to feel? How quickly do you want to move from feeling like shit to feeling really good about yourself, and then moving, forward in that direction? How fast do you want to do that? The other thing I tell my clients is, I don't need to know all your secrets. I don't need to know what you feel like your triggering events were. You don't have to relive it. We can go in, we grab the emotion, we change it, we take the emotion, we release the emotion, we bring a whole bunch of positive feeling into that, and it's gone. It's done. We release it. And it's that simple. So people look at me and they're like, well, is it that easy? And it is. It's that simple. I've worked with a lot of people who are very skeptical because they've held on to that identity and those habits for a really long time. And I say to them, how quick do you want to get rid of this? Because we can release it. I'm not saying we can do it in one session, but I'm saying we can probably do it over a succession of maybe 6 to 8 weeks, where you're feeling like, okay, I've gotten rid of some of the really big stuff, and now I can start piecing all the other little things and getting rid of them and dealing with them. So that's what hypnosis is all about. It's all about choice, and it's all about your choice to do the work that you want to do that makes sense for your life. I'm just basically what I call myself your hypnotic tour guide, because I just ask questions and kind of move you around so that holistically, body, mind, and spirit, you can release what needs to be released and build on all of those qualities that you do have that are really, really excellent, that really will make you feel like you're moving forward and letting go of things. So I also do what's called a reconnection to self. So like we get rid of all the trauma and then we reconnect you to your deepest part of yourself, self-esteem, self-confidence, self-love, self-care, self-actualization, all of those things. I help you to connect yourself back to that. Because when we experience trauma in our life, we are disconnected from that deepest part of ourselves. And when we reconnect, and when I get people to that point where they have reconnected, and I boost everything up, we boost everything up as powerful as they can get, and then I'll stop and I'll ask them, now, how do you feel? How does it feel to stand in your power again? Most people will sit up in that chair that they're sitting in and say, oh my God, I haven't felt this for so long. I forgot what it was like to be me, to be the actual person that I am. And then it's really easy because from that place of power, then they want to move forward and let go of all the garbage that they've been carrying around that they don't need to carry. Don't need to carry it anymore.
I feel like I need to come sit with you. And it just, like
I'm taking appointments, Donnie.
It's funny because we're here like specifically around PTSD and supporting our first responders and dealing with trauma. Mm-hmm. And, I think what I'm hearing is you're really able to connect people to their true identity.
Yes, that's exactly what I do. That's exactly what I do. That is my passion. Get people back to being their authentic self, not this person that they were told to be.
Yeah,
their authentic self.
And I've heard it a number of times that, people in that role, in the first responder or frontline worker, like they assume almost a different identity, and
yes.
they've kind of forgotten who they are at the core. And I really love the fact that that's your objective, is to connect them back to who they truly are and who they want to be. And I think that's so very important. And one of the points I really want to make in this discussion with you is just the new science that is coming out to support the power of our brain. Like firsthand, I went through depression as a young child, and they popped pills. Like, here you go take pills at like a young age. And I'm just like, okay. And you know what? It helped me to cope. But the best thing for me is I went and spent the summers with my grandparents. And I did fun activities. I was around enjoyable people. I found my true self. It was okay to be me. And I incorporated having an enjoyable life. And that's kind of like a total segue, but the power of the mind is huge. And you're right. The power is within us to heal ourselves, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've kind of touched on it, but like, what would be the experience for someone to step into your space and go through hypnosis or transcendence hypnosis?
So when I work with people, I usually work either 3 or 6 sessions with people who are struggling with some really serious, deep stuff. I usually work with them for about 6 sessions. So it's about an hour and a half for each session. I don't put a time limit on it because I don't like to rush people. I want people to be able to come, feel comfortable in the space that they're in with me. And literally, there's not a lot of communication, speaking, talking like you and I are doing right now. I allow the higher mind and the conscious mind of the client to kind of negotiate and do what needs to be done for the highest interest and best interest of the client. So when I say that I'm a hypnotic tour guide, that's literally what I am. I guide the client into a nice level of hypnosis, and then I move around asking questions in different areas, and I allow the higher mind to do what it needs to do. Sessions with me are very quiet. So what I do with the clients, once I have them in hypnosis, I program what's called idiomotor response. So I get yeses and nos from finger responses. There's not a lot of talking. Like I say, your secrets are safe with you, but you also don't have to relive experiences. So when I talk about going to experiences, sometimes we'll go back in time to the experience that happened. You don't have to relive it. I basically grab the experience, and I get a positive or negative. Where are you sitting in this experience? On a positive or negative scale, and then that's it. We grab it. We do some work around it, and we release it. There's no talking about it. There's no. And sometimes the client might cry, or sometimes the client might get a little agitated, but it's that release. So I hold the space for them to be able to do that. And then we just move on to the next thing. So I have written a book, Donnie. It's called The Burned Out Healer. And it was just published and was just released in June of this year. And it talks about trauma release, reconnection to self, but it also talks about basically what it's like to have a session with me and all of the things that I cover.
Oh,
so I talk with, when I first bring a client in and we get them into hypnosis, the first thing I do is basically take them back to when they were born. And we build up their foundation from there. We do soul work. We do experiences. So we do regression work. We do all kinds of work around releasing anger, frustration. We do relationship work. We do healing work. All sorts of things. The session with me is very holistic in the sense that I cover everything, body, mind, and spirit, as well as physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, etheric, and soul levels. So everything is covered. And then when you come back the next week, we build on those things again. So we make sure that everything that has been released from the first week's session, and then we start to build on what we need to work into. Clients can come to me. They may not know what they need. They may not know what they need to work on, and that's okay. The higher mind will let them know what's going on and what they're doing, what we're working on today. So clients can come in. Most people who are suffering from the symptoms of PTSD really badly that have come to see me will say, I don't even know who I am anymore, and I don't even know where to start. I'm like, great, that's perfect. Let's just start at the beginning. Let's have your higher mind come in, and the higher mind's going to start at the beginning, and we're just going to work from there. And it will work on the things that need to be worked on first, and then we'll go from there. Because it takes the onus off the client to come and explain to me all of the things that have happened to them in their life. Most people are like, I don't even know who I am anymore. That's one of the triggers. That's one of the things people need to really be paying attention to when they don't know who they are anymore, and they don't even know how to explain how they feel. Those are the two things that I look for when I'm working with people. I get excited about it because those are the people that are ready. They're ready to shed it, get rid of it, and start rebuilding that person that they really are with all of the strengths that they do have that have just been beaten down over time.
Perfect. Do you, just out of curiosity, do you have a book with you right there?
I do, yeah. It's going to be backwards, but I have it.
Okay. So what we're going to do is, Miss Jackie, we're going to buy a book from you and maybe a couple, and we'll make them available in the Wayfinders Wellness Retreat so that people can read up on what you're doing. I think that's absolutely phenomenal. I know, and you know, that not all healing modalities are right for everybody.
No, they're not.
And you kind of highlighted, like what you would look for in a client and when they're ready. For someone sitting here watching this and they're like, you're speaking to me, Jackie, this all makes sense, I'm just not sure about hypnosis. What is something that, that if they're on the fence, what is something that, you could say, or just kind of, I don't know, just like what would give them the motivation to say, I need to go talk to Jackie?
I get you. I see you. I hear you. I know what you're going through. Call me. If you have questions, if you have reservations, if you're not sure, call me. We'll have a conversation. You can tell me whatever you need to tell me. Whatever you don't want to tell me is fine. We will build a program that is centered on you. And I'm here. That's it. I'm here. Hypnosis is not for everybody. I wish it was, because it's one of those modalities that's quick. It's 96% effective in 6 sessions, as compared to, I could go into statistics, they're in my book. Compared to psychoanalysis and psychotherapy, we're 96% more effective with hypnosis, and it's becoming more mainstream, but people don't know about it. In 6 sessions, in 1 session, you will notice a huge difference. In 6 sessions, you will be a different person, and people will see it, and you will feel it.
Well, if there was a magic bullet, we may be on the right path to finding it through hypnosis. So I'm certainly going to encourage everybody at a bare minimum to reach out and have a chat with Jacquie. The one thing I will say is that this community is one that is so willing to support each other. I'm saddened by the fact that it is still so suppressed in the media and it is not being acknowledged, but the people who are out there as a support network are so committed and determined and willing to be pillars of support for one another. And so absolutely reach out to Jacquie and learn more about what she's doing. And even if it's just to have a conversation, everything starts with a conversation. So
absolutely. And if you're really curious about what a session is about, how it breaks down and all of the pieces that come together when we're looking at releasing trauma, the book, The Burned Out Healer, you can just put my name into the search on Amazon, and it is available on Amazon. So that's a really great place to start. And then my information is in the back of the book. If you read the book and you really still want to talk, or you get halfway through the book and something hits you, contact me anytime. I'm here. I'm willing to work with anybody who's struggling with this, because I did it. I'm a testament to myself because I did it. I went through the work. I did the work. I created this program around the work that I did for myself. And I can't explain how much it empowers me to feel the way I do compared to the way it was. When you don't feel like being around anymore, that's not a good thing. You're here for a reason and you need to stay. So if you feel like you don't need to be around anymore, you need to call me. Even if it's just to chat. You don't even have to do hypnosis with me. Call me. We'll talk. If it's going to work for you, then we'll work. The other thing I wanted to talk about, Donnie, real quick, because I know we've got just a second. I work online exclusively. Now, I'm willing to work in person, obviously, when things are a little bit better in the world. But I do work online exclusively with people who don't want to leave their homes. And I'm having amazing results with people because they're in the safety and security of their home. If they're uncomfortable at any time, they can basically close their computer lid and I'm gone. I'm not in their space anymore. The other thing is I'm never invasive. So I set the appointment with you. If for some reason you bail on the appointment because you your fears come up or whatever it is, that's fine. You contact me when you're ready and we'll do it again. That's okay. I'm totally cool with that. But working online and working with hypnosis online, people are like, oh my God, you can do that online? I get better results. I'm getting way better results. So I'm actually boosting that 96% even higher. And the people that I work with, my colleagues, we're all finding that, especially in the new kind of environment that we're living in the world. I'm working with people worldwide who are struggling. So most of my clients right now are in Australia, which is amazing.
That's phenomenal. The fact that you're having that reach is amazing. We want you here. We want you here. We want you support. I know your heart is big enough to support as many people as you possibly can, and I'm grateful that you're supporting people as far away as you can reach. But obviously, we want people here within our Wayfinder community, and we hope that community stretches. But the big thing is making those people aware of your presence wherever it may be, and that you're available to support them And it's not just about coping, it is about healing and finding your true self and your identity and being the person that you want to be without judgment, without criticism, and just living life
Yeah.
with a smile, a genuine smile.
Coping isn't something you want anymore, right?
No.
Most people don't want to cope. They want to live.
Exactly.
So what do you want instead? When you know what you want instead, even if you don't know what it all is, that's okay.
Yeah.
We will build that. We will build that for you. It'll be yours. It'll be yours to build. So
Exactly.
you get to make those choices.
Well, we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna grab a couple of your books, Jackie. We'll get them in the retreat so people have access to them. And then obviously this video is available to everybody, part of the Wayfinders group, and it will be online. So anybody and everybody in the world will be able to see what you're doing. One of the things that I do ask, Jackie, is one of my missions is to eliminate a lot of the negativity on social media. And so as we finish here and as we part ways, I just ask for your words of inspiration or positivity that will forever echo into eternity.
I'm going to read you a quote from the back of my book really quick. If I can find it. Where is it? This is one of the quotes that I wrote, and it's one of the things that I use as a mantra for myself. There are only 2 times in our lives, now and too late. But if it's never too late, then all we really have is right now. So that's kind of how I have moved through my own stuff. And, you know, I want people to live in there right now. I don't want it to be too late for anybody. So here I am. If you need me, here I am.
Thank you so very much, Jackie. I am forever grateful, and I trust we will have more communications with you, and I certainly hope that more people who need you reach out and have that chat. So, Miss Jackie, we're going to get out of here. I'm going to let you go enjoy your day. I'm off. I just want to say thank you to everyone who tunes in, and anyone who needs a help to reach out. So.
Thank you very much. It was great.